Okay, welcome everybody and good evening to the folks, Permanent Public Building Committee, the Monday, August 14th meeting. We have three main topics, and of course we kick off with the approve the minutes. We do have a quorum, and with that I will start with the approve the minutes and seek a vote for the last meeting. Do we have two meeting minutes, Catherine? Let me just be specific. I think we have two we have to do, correct? Two meetings ago in the last meeting, correct?
I thought we, you're
I
right.
thought we voted the other.
It was July 10th we need to
Right.
vote on.
So we have two meeting minutes, July 10 and then the previous meeting, which was
July 24.
July 24.
Mhm.
So for, I'd like to move.
I
Yes,
was
sir.
at both, so I'll recommend approval of both of them.
Okay. With that, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions? That's for both of these. So with that, I will do the roll call. We are a virtual meeting again. So I will start with the roll call. Richard,
Aye.
George,
Aye,
Roy,
Yeah, I don't know if I was at those meetings.
okay, Lynn,
Yes.
I was also only at one of them, so
Right.
I can only say aye to one.
okay, and the chair is aye. That makes three. Is that sufficient, Catherine?
Yes.
Richard?
no. No,
I
It's
guess
not sufficient?
my understanding is that the minutes, you don't have to necessarily be at the meeting to approve for the minutes.
Right.
As long as you've read them and that you agree with, you don't have any problems with them.
And I read them
Okay.
and I don't have a problem.
Okay, then that's
Aye.
sufficient.
Okay, that is everybody. Roy, Lynn, myself, the chair was aye. Okay, great. All right, so let's go and move to the first item, main topic, which is the Emery Grover. And I don't see, are you going to cover this, Hank?
Yes, Ken is out on vacation. Somewhere cruising around England.
Oh, wow.
And so I will walk us through the agenda and also ask Deborah to chime in as we get to the change order list. This is the agenda that Ken distributed. I think what I'd like also to do is to show you some photos. And these were photos of the during this past week. Can you all see that?
No, just your agenda.
Just my agenda. Stop sharing. Share screen. There we go. Is that now visible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sure many of you have driven by. You've seen the scaffolding that goes around the building. The repointing is complete on the east side, and by the end of the week will be complete on the west side. Here you can see they're working around the front entry area, and the chimneys, both chimneys are now complete. This is a picture of the north chimney. You can hardly tell the difference, but this is largely not reclaimed brick. This is the new brick. They were installing the metal cap today and will be putting on the precast cap that goes on top of those little piers. They'll be putting that on Wednesday. They'll need a large crane to do that work. This was a sample of the mock-up of the cornice. It's aluminum, painted aluminum, and we're still finalizing the color, but this is a bone white, very close to what was there originally. You can see the detail. They've reconstructed the wood framing of the cornice, and then this metal fits over it. On the inside, you can see that some of the steel is being erected in the columns coming up through. This one is in that center space. This is one of the beams from the truss above. And these are the shear walls that are in place now. And then this view is looking from the basement up to some of the structural steel framing where the old east chimneys were located. And they are putting, boxing out those I-beams with wood on the side and on top so that the nailers can receive the existing joists and any of the new joists. And then also these are pictures of a mock-up of some of the desks that are set up in the gym over at Hillside. And on Wednesday, that would be, on Wednesday, we'll be reviewing these and some of the updated designs for the furniture with the intent of getting the order in by the end of September. I'm going to stop sharing that and go back to the agenda. So you saw the structural steel that's underway. Chimneys toward the east side are rebuilt, brick repointing. They'll probably move to the south facade after they finish the west facade. Eversource has finalized their design. We have the grant of location meeting on Tuesday with the select board, and we're waiting the transformer delivery date once that grant of location is provided. Window blocking is still underway, as well as the preparation for the structural steel. Basement waterproofing, that's all the way around the basement level, and the interface between the rough stone and the brick, that's complete. And all the roofing supplies are now on site. They'll probably, once they complete those, the install of the caps on the two chimneys are going to begin stripping the roof of the existing slate and putting on the ice and water shield. Well, first of all, inspecting and repairing any of the sub base wood, and then installing the ice and water shield before proceeding and starting in on the slate installation.
Could I ask a question while we're on that subject?
Go
Certainly.
ahead, George.
Are you putting ice and water shield over the entire roof?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right.
Any other questions about work in progress?
Can I ask a question? This is a little bit because I don't quite understand all the concepts behind it, but the structural steel that's going in, where exactly, what parts? I mean, is it just in different parts for the different flooring, or what exactly is the amount of structural steel going in to the building?
As you may recall, we removed two chimneys on the eastern side of the building. Those chimneys were supporting floor joists.
Okay.
And so we're putting in new supports to pick up all the joists and the floor framing associated with those areas. So it's largely on the eastern side of the building.
Okay.
There is also some reinforcing that is surrounding some of the windows.
Mhm.
And those are channels that are getting bolted to the interior brick to provide lateral support, and also support for the interior framing that ties to the outside wall.
So in essence, it's basically replacing existing structural support, other than the window ones, which are to help with some of the outside stuff. It's not structural to the building, except to the extent that you removed structural support by removing the ceilings. We're not adding additional structural steel just because we think the building needs it. It's just to replace it or just so I'm
Well,
not-
we're-
Well, there, Hank, can I answer that or?
Yeah,
So as you recall, the whole top level is supported by the truss. And one of the things that came out of investigation and design was that the original truss was not adequate to support the loads.
Okay.
So one of the other locations where there's some steel is to support the truss back up. There's some steel where the old stairwells were taken out and framing around new stairwells.
Isn't there some structural steel for seismic too?
There's seismic clips in there
Right.
at the perimeter walls, connecting the floors to the perimeter walls.
So it's a
Mm.
bunch of things, really.
It's a bunch of things. It's
yeah.
a lot. Then there are other places where we put in transfer beams where we wanted to avoid, or we wanted to move the location of structure in order to accommodate program spaces.
And also the new stairs, north and south, are structural steel, but they have columns and beams helping to support them. And Deborah, isn't the new dormer has some structural steel in it as well,
That's mostly wood frame.
mostly wood frame. So Michael, if you want to see, there is a 3D isometric that shows all the steel. It's quite a bit. I can forward that to you if you want to see it.
I always love stuff. I just wanted to make sure I understood, because when you tell people structural steel and they think about the old building, you know, being condemned, what does it mean? So I just wanted to understand where the pieces were. That's very helpful. Thank you.
We-
The
we
best
could
thing you
not-
could do, Michael, to understand it would be to walk over to the building and walk inside now, where you can see the combination of all the original wood framing and structure. And then you see all this new concrete of the elevator hoistway and the concrete shear walls. And you start to see the steel going in, and it's just this
Yeah, I'm
history
gonna,
of
I
construction.
think,
when Ken is back, I wanted to do it before the end of August. So when he's back, I'm definitely gonna set up a time with him to go over and take a tour. Thank
I
you.
think one of the important things is that this building would not be able to be utilized if we didn't put this structural steel in and a lot of the clips and so forth. I mean, this is an old building and it is its existing state would not have been able to be used, in my opinion.
You're absolutely correct. And the seismic criteria today
Totally different.
has changed slightly since 1897.
Didn't exist in 1897.
Hey, Hank, can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
How did this building stand the rainstorm?
Well, we don't have a basement floor yet, so it drained quite well.
Uh,
You just open things up and let it drain out onto to Highland Avenue.
Well, no, a lot of it, any water that came, there are no windows in the building right now.
Yeah.
So all the water that came in through the windows, through the side, the basement level is just porous dirt and gravel at this point. So it all just drained right down.
All right, thank you.
All blessings.
Yes, that's one advantage of not having poured the basement slab yet. So in terms of the ACL, we have these items, some of which are have numbers associated with them, but this last most recently we've had Structures North come out and look at the interior brick and have some concerns. And Deborah, I don't know if, can you kind of express what we're currently doing?
Yeah, maybe I just try and sort of do the abbreviated version of the long story here. I mean, as we've been saying, it's the buildings of this era were built very well and very, very solidly and solid brick. And before they typically put steel in them, so it was before the era when you had rusting steel damaging damaging the walls of buildings when it got wet. And everything we knew from the design phase, we knew that the building had pretty much 12-inch thick, what we assumed to be solid brick walls. The chimneys would be 12-inch thick solid brick. That was maybe the most information we had from the original drawings. And during the design phase, the structural engineer went around and tapped the brick pretty thoroughly to see if there were any places that seemed to be less than sound. And as part of the design, they had identified areas mostly right underneath the gutter where water probably had gotten in and some of the mortar was a little loose. And what our base scope drawings had called for was removing and rebuilding some of that corbelled brick under the gutter. But otherwise, the expectation was that the building was very, very sound. You can do a lot to a 12-inch thick solid masonry wall in terms of changes and cutting holes in it and all of that. What we have gradually been seeing more and more during construction, however, has been that starting with the chimneys, that what we thought were 12-inch thick solid bonded brick in some places was not 12 inches thick. In some places it was only 8 inches thick. So starting with the chimneys, we had to look at doing some reinforcing there, some grouting, some pinning of the walls together, some investigations. The engineers got up there and drilled holes and put their borescope in and determined that some of the collar joints between the two layers of brick were not filled solid with masonry. So there was some work at the chimneys that hadn't been anticipated. At the exterior wall, the brick at the exterior, that orange, the beautiful orange Roman brick, is very hard and very sound. But what we found at the inside, where there are two courses of sort of common red brick, was that some of that was deteriorated. So for starters, there was a scope that I think has been presented previously, mostly under the windows, where some of that brick had to come out and be rebuilt. The item that came up most recently, though, was at the rest of the brick wall, where what the structural engineer was very, very surprised to find was that the 3 wides of brick didn't have any mortar between, or in some cases is missing the mortar between the orange brick on the outside and the middle wide, and between the 2 wides of the red brick. So that's problematic because it's not providing a full composite masonry bearing wall for the entire structure. In addition to that, where there are typically header bricks that tie the wides to further tie the wides together in addition to the mortar, those header bricks at the orange brick going inside in some cases aren't long enough to actually do what they're supposed to do. So there is some concern about the stability of this exterior wall, and not necessarily everywhere, because the building has been there for over 100 years and has been standing just fine. But because we are doing things to it and adding loads to it and changing loads to it, there's a concern that because of these gaps and because of the lack of the brick headers tying it together, that it's not as sturdy as it needs to be. So what the structural engineer recommended, and we started with that last week, was having this company that's a specialized testing company that does a ground penetrating radar survey of the brick. And they came last week and did a trial with their equipment at the outside and at the inside to see if that would be able to show where in the wall there were voids, and also where it would also show the length of those brick headers. So that was successful. At the end of last week, we got their preliminary results showing how that worked. So what they're going to do starting tomorrow is come back and do that same scan for a good part of the building. And we determined that they can pretty much do it from the inside where there's easier access. And so they'll be here for, I'm not quite sure how many days it will take to do this scan. And then the structural engineer will look at the results and kind of fine tune his recommendations based on that. But what he's saying is where the collar joints are missing at the brick in certain areas of stress, the wall needs to be grouted. And where there's the missing collar joint and where the brick ties are missing, there need to be helical ties inserted as well. So short of saying, oh, just do this everywhere, what the scan is gonna show is the extent and help the structural engineer make a decision about the areas that really need this and which type of repair. So this, as an exercise, is at this point separate from the rest of the masonry repair work that's being done at the exterior. That's ongoing and untouched by this. And my understanding is this is not on the critical path of the building in general, that some of the other work, the other structural work, is not affecting the window work. So it's, I think, fortunately, sort of an isolated item, but because of this scan is taking some time and some reviews to really determine what's needed and the extent of what's needed.
Is there a general sense of impact here? I appreciate you
Yes.
mentioned the schedule, that's good, but is there, we don't know all the, is there a macro number that you're kind of looking at here?
We are looking at probably another couple 100,000, and potentially some impact on time, on schedule. We're waiting to see the results of the scan to determine both cost and schedule impact. Clearly, we would want them to work on the east wall first, because that would enable structural steel to continue installation. So there'll be a prioritization of locations once we know what needs to be done. The injection process, they literally drill holes about on 16-inch grid into the wall, and they inject a fluid mortar. And they will also need to be rebuilding behind that upper cornice pretty much all the way around the building. That was also determined. So yes, there will be an impact on costs, there will be an impact on schedule. Fortunately, we did get that additional funding. So we still have a reasonably healthy contingency.
Well, the contingency is around 2 million, so this would be another 10% of that. But, and that's what I was thinking in terms of what kind of things are we eking up against. After this structural bit, is there really anything significant? I mean, we don't have much land stuff outside the building to do. The structural's been done. Do you think there's other risky items as we continue to close in walls and everything else?
I think the risks diminish because we will have investigated the majority of the building by that time. And the structure is clearly the most important thing.
Right.
We do have these other things on the ACL, which we haven't fully priced out yet. And O'Connor is reticent to give us numbers, ballpark numbers, because they really want to get detailed numbers from their subs before they provide them to us.
Okay. All right.
Essentially, this is one of those items that you would not be able to see until you do open things up. And
Right.
and you have two brick walls, which we knew existed, but we thought they were tied together.
Exactly, George. And
And in essence, they aren't, and not in all cases. They might be tied together somewhere. So somehow you've got to get in there. Are they thinking of, you mentioned helical, it's like a large screw that you connect the two outside and inside wall?
Right.
Correct.
You do it
Yeah.
like down at an angle and
Right,
pins the wall together before you do the grouting. Just because
Right.
you don't want, you can't, in the grouting, you have to do in like layers, like underpinning pieces at a time, because you can't just
right.
fill it with grout and have too much pressure against the outside wall, because
It's
Yeah.
almost like putting helical rebar in.
yeah.
Yep.
That
Very similar.
ties them together.
Yeah.
That's a shame, because that's a lot of work.
So at
Yes.
one point, like a week or so ago, and after this came up, and I said to the structural engineer, when this ground penetrating radar standing thing came up, which I've never done on a building wall. I mean, we sometimes do the sort of the thermal imaging to see where where it's wet or whatnot. And I said, oh my God, on a building like this, should we be recommending that we do, as part of the design phase, this kind of a scan on a building of this age to look for this kind of thing? And he said, no, no, no. I mean, this is just so unusual that the building looked like it was well constructed, but it was just one of those, public bidding, low bidder jobs back from the 1890s, where it just wasn't built the way every other building that we see from this era was built.
Okay. Hank, anything more before we go to voting?
We have the voting items.
And we have a change order and a PSS.
Correct.
Okay. So I don't see the PSS here, but we got the change order down at the bottom.
No, the PSS is being covered by our reimbursables. We had a
Okay.
$75,000 budget for the miscellaneous reimbursables. And so that new work for the scanning will be coming out of that budget.
Let's do the change order and then go to the PSS one, because I'm not sure what we're doing with the
Well,
PSS.
the
Change
PSS
date.
is actually for Vanderweil. It's just to change the end of the contract date. It's just a change order to change the end of the contract date.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, let's do the change order first. And then we'll go down to that with a brief explanation. Okay, we have change order number 5 for $43,275.22. Put forth for a vote. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any questions, explanation around the items? Hank? Is it just there, the soffit work, the prism testing, and the mortar change?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions from anybody? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the vote. Give me 1 second. Okay, great. Richard,
Aye.
George,
I,
Roy,
Aye.
Lynn,
Right?
Erwin,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. I don't see Ann. Is Ann on?
No, she's not able to make it today.
All right, great. All right, now let's go to the PSS. Can you just rephrase that or just share that again, Catherine? It's just a change date.
It's just a change date. When the contract was written up, somehow it was expired at the end of June of 2023 instead of June of 2024. So we just have to officially extend it beyond the date.
So I put PSS number 1 forth for vote approval for RG Vanderwell Engineers, getting the contract to the correct date from June 2023 to June 2024. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions?
Yeah, was there any cost impact?
No,
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, hearing none, coming to the vote. Richard,
Aye.
George,
I,
Roy,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
chair is aye. Okay. We are now going to move forward onto the invoices. The first invoice, we'll do these separate and then a couple will join together. Invoice number 8 for M. O'Connor Contracting, requisition number 8 through July 2023 for $836,882.76. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the vote. Richard,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
Lynn,
I,
Erwin,
Aye.
Michael.
Aye.
Chair's aye. Okay, great. Next invoice is for BH&A Services, June 2023, $17,154.85 coming out of the architectural budget. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the vote. Richard,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
Lynn,
I,
Erwin,
Aye.
Michael.
Aye.
Chair's aye. Okay, the final two invoices I'm going to group together. They are for UTS of Mass, July 2023 materials testing for $900. And the second one is Vanderwell for June 2023 commissioning for $5,044. The total is $5,944 coming out of the miscellaneous budget. Do I hear a second?
Second.
second,
You, Erwin. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the vote. Richard,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
Lynn,
I,
Erwin,
Aye.
Michael.
Aye.
Chair is aye. Okay, with that, I believe we are all set for this agenda item, the Emery Grover update. And we will move to the RTU replacement. And do I turn that to you, Hank?
Yes, let me share my screen.
Thanks, Deborah. It varies.
We had a discussion at our last meeting, but we did not have a quorum to go through this. So we'll do a quick repeat summary. The pre-qualification subcommittee recommended acceptance of these 6 HVAC prime contractors. That was part of the recommendation letter. It was sent out by Hill International. Having gone through their submissions. And so we will be asking the committee tonight to ratify that recommendation. We also went through the 90% cost estimate, reconciled cost estimates. The bidding schedule, we expect to receive filed sub bids this Thursday, and the HVAC prime bids are due on the 24th, so that we'll be coming back to the PVBC at their next meeting on the 28th for award of contract. And then we also want to have a vote regarding the proprietary items using the software system that the town uses everywhere or is beginning to use everywhere for HVAC BMS management. And then on top of that, there's some invoices that we want to go through. So are there any questions about the pre-qualifications? Ambient Temperature Corp, CAM HVAC, E. Amati and Sons, Enterprise Equipment, General Mechanical, and GF White.
Okay, if there's no questions, I'll move to put a vote forward to ratify the pre-qualification of this pre-qual. I've got it correct. Do I hear a second?
Second.
second,
Thank you, George. Any further questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the vote. And Barry, you're here. Yep. Okay. Richard,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
and chair is aye. Okay. Shall we do the proprietary equipment and then go to the invoices, Hank?
Sure. I think everyone has had a chance to look at the cost estimates. We'll see how close we are once the bids start coming in. The big issue that we'll want to decide at our next meeting is whether to accept or not accept alternate number one. And as you may recall, alternate number one is an air source heat pump on the rooftop that would supply heating during the summertime and also the swing seasons, but it would be providing heat for reheat within the building, as opposed to running the gas-fired furnaces. So that will come back to, I think, at our next meeting. Yeah, so proprietary items would be the next thing.
Okay, great. All right, I will put forth for a vote to accept the proprietary items, which is the automatic temperature control computer software, which is used by the town and to be incorporated into this project. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the vote. Richard,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
Lynn? Did we lose Lynn?
Sorry, I was on mute. Aye.
Okay, thank you. Erwin,
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
chair is aye. Okay, with that, we can go to the invoices, Hank?
Yep.
Okay. The first invoice is for GGD Consulting Engineers, June 2023, for $50,760 coming out of the designer budget. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to vote. Richard,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Roy,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Harry,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. I'm going to group the next four invoices together, which is the final set as they come out of the same budget. The first one is Hill International for June 2023, Elliott. Okay, got that. All right. Elliott for $3,401.25. The second one is NV5 for May, June 2023 commissioning for $1,461.83. Next one is NV5 for June and July 2023 commissioning for $2,104.40. And the final of the four is Project Dog electronic bidding and hosting printing services for $957.16. The total of these four is $7,924.44 coming out of the miscellaneous budget. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Erwin. Any questions?
Those, I was confused by the numbers.
Me
I
too.
assume that they all added up, but you were quoting numbers that I didn't see on the list here.
It was
Is that true?
it was the second Hill International, perhaps. You said it was 3,000 and change, and it's 6,000 and change, and that's the difference.
Yeah, I've got a copy of the invoices from you, Catherine. I'm not looking at your agenda, Hank. So
Yeah.
we need to reconcile.
Catherine's is probably the most up to date.
Yeah, I think it was 3,000, not 6,000.
Can we just go over the numbers because it's going to be in the minutes?
Sure. So the first invoice is for Hill International, June 2023, Elliott, $3,401.25. Second one is NV5, May, June 2023 commissioning, $1,461.63. This third invoice is NV5 for June and July 2023 commissioning, $2,104.40. And the fourth is for Project Dog, electronic bid and hosting and printing for $957.16. They all add up to $7,924.44 coming out of the miscellaneous budget.
As long as they're consistent between the numbers we're voting on and the agenda, I'm happy.
Well, I think the agenda had last month's invoice amount.
Okay,
The
It's just that-
6,000 was last month's
okay.
invoice amount.
We-
So this month it
just
was
correct that.
3,000.
Just want
yeah.
to make sure that they're consistent.
So we'll
Okay.
correct that.
Yes.
Great. Okay, with that, did I hear a second?
Second,
Thank you, George. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing come to the vote. Richard,
Aye.
George,
aye,
Roy,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
the chair is aye. I believe that's all the invoices that I've got on the spreadsheet. That should finish up and close out the RTU. Okay,
Yes.
with that, we will move to the library space utilization study. Turn that to you, Hank, and then Brett and folks.
Yes, so we had a presentation recently with the library trustees.
Hold on.
Nope, there's Earhart, good. And there's Kim, great.
Okay.
And I'll introduce Brett, who will give the primary presentation. Per our last meeting, there are 4 priority areas that they're looking at for renovations within the building, and that'll all be explained. The new information tonight, which I think you've previewed in the slide that you received on Friday, are the cost estimates associated with each of those phases. So Brett, with that, maybe you want to share your screen?
I will. Good evening, everybody. Okay, great. Nice to be with you all tonight. I'll try to be brief. Hopefully I'm the last item on your agenda tonight, so you can get back to your summer evening. So I'm just going to review a little bit of the project process, what our priorities were, look at the 4 projects that the trustees identified for all of us, and then very briefly touch on the cost estimate that we received. Just as a reminder, I'm Brett Benson. I'm a principal at UTL. I'm managing principal for this project. And I've been assisted by 2 team members of mine, Marissa and Claudia. They're not here with me tonight. We've also worked very closely with Hank throughout the process, and with Kim and Dimitri at the library, as well as Earhart as our trustee representative throughout the study. And they've been great resources for us throughout, and I thank them for it. I just wanted to go through a couple of the study goals. We're calling this the framework study, really to make sure that everybody understands that this is just the first step in what will be a longer process. So we wanted to, number one, identify the constraints and the opportunities in the library space utilization. I think I said this before to all of you, 17 years since the Highland renovation was done. Not a very long time in the life of the building, but it is very transformative in how people use a library, and it's quite different now than it was 17 years ago. The other goal was to engage with Needham residents, with library patrons, with the staff, the trustees, the friends of the library, and many other interested stakeholders, just to hear directly from them what the library is doing well, what needs to be expanded, what's missing. And then third is to develop and refine this framework to improve the library's layout and really try to meet the needs of the library over the next 20 years. We've had a number of meetings. We've met with the trustees now 4 times, including just last week. This is our 3rd meeting with all of you. continuous meetings with library staff since the beginning of the study. And we've engaged with stakeholders and patrons both directly through interactions at the library, through observations, and through an online survey. This is where we are in terms of our timeline. So we started back in February. We're midway through August. We're writing our final report now in draft format. We'll hope to take any comments that you have and incorporate that into the final report. And again, we met with the trustees last week, last Monday. So at our last presentation, we detailed the 4 projects that the trustees had identified as the top priorities for them, and they're listed here in order. So the first one is really to create a new dedicated teen and tween area in the library. The second one is to provide an improved children's area. Third is Rosemary entrance improvements and creating a new multi-purpose room. And then this fourth one is the making improvements to the Highland entrance. And I'm going to go through all 4 of these in a little bit of detail. Just as a kind of big picture, this is the library layout as it is shown today. First floor is shown on the left-hand side. The children's area is in yellow. The community room is that purple block up in the upper left. And the general or adult collection is in blue, and that kind of spreads between the first and the second floors. You can see on the plan, the pink shaded areas of the second floor up here are dedicated to the teens and tweens, so the young adults. But in reality, they actually occupy significantly more space in the library, especially immediately after school. And that causes a lot of friction between library patrons, both because the young adult area is just undersized compared to the need, but also, you know, teens and tweens, they generate noise, and some people go to libraries and they are looking for a peaceful place. So in plan form, these are the 4 projects the trustees identified for us. 2 projects on the lower level, the children's area and the Rosemary entrance, and 2 on the upper level, the teens and tweens and the Highland entrance improvements. I'll go through these one by one, and then we'll get to the cost estimate later. So in the teens and tweens area, we're firstly proposing to remove the wood and glass partition that separates that one room that faces towards the west with all of the glass, as well as all of the millwork in that space that really reduces it to being 2 tables in that space. And what we're proposing instead is to create a larger contiguous teen and tween area that is also partitioned off by glass partitions, so that the teens have both an area to expand into, but also it's contained, both physically contained, but also acoustically contained as well. What we've included in our cost estimate is that those partitions would be primarily glass. We know that the library is a beautiful space that has a really great sense of light and openness, and we do not want to change that. So we really want to make sure that any new partitions that we're putting, especially up on the second floor, allow that sense of space to continue. Downstairs in the children's area, the primary goal here is to improve sightlines throughout the space. So the current children's reference desk is over in this corner. It has very limited sightlines for people coming in through the front door, and also up to this upper level. It's a kind of mezzanine. It's the basement of the original building. And we also want to provide program areas and furnishings that are suited to how the space is being used today. We've created a wellness room on this level. So there's new plumbing connections for that. And we're including new flooring and lighting throughout that space as well. Then the Rosemary entrance improvements really center around 2 goals. Number one is to get the circulation desk more front and center so that it has, again, better sight lines to people coming in through the front door, as well as better sight lines off to the plan right area here, so that library staff can monitor what's going on. But also, very importantly, to create a new multi-purpose room in the library. This is a space that could hold 24 students in a classroom format. It would have very flexible furniture. It would allow the library to create programming in a space that they just don't have right now. And so we heard, throughout our interactions with the staff and with patrons that that's the type of space that's really missing. And then lastly, upstairs at the Highland entrance area, we're proposing to relocate the reference desk, again, so that we can improve sight lines. We're also providing an enlarged workroom so that and staff office for greater efficiency for the staff, and then new flooring and seating areas and new lighting there as well. Just in a kind of snapshot of statistics here, what we're proposing through these 4 projects increases the seating capacity by 16%. So that's great. We see that the library's been very well used throughout our study, and the collection remains basically the same. We are 1 shelf less than what there is currently available in the library. So I think that's pretty good while we create 16% more seating capacity. And then as we turn to the cost estimate, I'm not going to go too much into detail. I think you are all very, very familiar with how this works. What we've done is we've estimated each of these 4 projects in 2024 dollars. We just had to pick a date. And so working with Hank, we picked this date and then escalated each project out so that we assumed that what they could go each summer as a summer slammer. So summer 25, summer 26, 27, and 28, and so on. Lynn, you have your hand raised. Do you want to ask a question now?
Go ahead, Lynn.
I just wanted to back up for 1 second. I thought in one of the last rounds we had talked about a neurodiverse sensory room so that students, especially in the teen tween or the youngers, would have sort of a quiet space so they could still enjoy the library, but enjoy it at their own ability. And I didn't see that in the plans. Did that get moved out?
It's not cut out, but it is one project that we've identified that the library can do on their own through furniture changes and doesn't need to be a capital cost.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah. So we've got the hard costs, we've got soft costs that we worked on with Hank for contingency furniture based on our experience with library furniture. We do think that some of those costs could be reduced by taking a more detailed inventory of current furniture and reusing them potentially, or funding them through outside sources, through the Library Foundation, for example. There's equipment, moving costs. We did not include any temporary facility costs for now. We're assuming that the collection could potentially switch to school locations as summer slammers. And then of course, the professional service fees, we do need to pay our engineers and our architects. So in a broad brush summary, these are the 4 projects as they break down. Again, down at the bottom here, just as a starting point, because we needed to start somewhere, we've projected these out to fall of 25, 26, and so on. And you can see that as a cost per square foot, some of these projects vary. Some of them are more intensive in terms of finishes. For example, the teen and tween area, we're building new partitions. There'll be glass partitions. They tend to be a little more expensive than just this, solid drywall. And then some of these tend to be a little more cosmetic in terms of the finish changes, and then more structural in terms of moving desks around and so on. On all of these layouts, we've tried to be very conscientious about existing infrastructure in the library, especially electrical infrastructure and floor boxes and plumbing, so that we're working with what's in the building now and not trying to create something new that would engender more additional costs. I probably don't need to say this out loud, but I will anyway, that we're just at the very, very beginning. This is a framework study cost estimate. It is not schematic design, let alone further details.
Erwin, you have your hand up?
Yeah, just curious about the $sign going across for temporary facility costs. Is that another way of saying minimal impact, or is it unknown, or how would that affect at this point, what the estimated total project cost would be?
I think, Erwin, if I may, we really don't know how much. Well, we know the number of books that would need to be moved, and if they need to be accessed during that construction period, that time, they could be, for instance, moved over to the Hillside school once the school department moves out. That would be the most likely location. Or they could go to one of the other schools and be accessed there. I think it really depends on whether the library wants to maintain that collection as an accessible collection during the renovation time, or whether it can just be boxed up and then unboxed. I suspect it'll be some kind of hybrid, but by putting a $0 sign, we're making the assumption that we don't have to lease space to create a temporary facility.
Is it fair to say it would not be a substantial cost impact?
Fair to say we're carrying a constant $15,000 for moving. That's a total guesstimate, and really depends on if we're going to try to set up that temporary facility during that period. What I do know is we have the whole Hillside Media Center has a lot of library shelving, and if it were appropriate, those might be moved to one of the front rooms at Hillside, maybe the old kindergarten rooms, and a separate satellite space could be set up there for the construction period, for instance.
You think you need a satellite, or would it be just more storage?
Kim, you want to weigh in on that?
So I guess it depends on which pieces, like when we're talking about the teen room, probably we could get away with just storage for a little bit of time. Children's room, you would most likely want some sort of operation somehow. But I think there would be probably openness to discussing that.
I mean, it could also be that for the children's area, we could open up the library at Sunita Williams and use that during the summer. It won't have the same collection, but it would have a similar collection. And if it were supplemented with pre-K literature, that might be appropriate. Or Newman, for instance, would have a similar collection, or at least a collection that could be used by that population.
However, that would have to be manned.
That's correct. But if the children's librarians at the Needham Public Library would otherwise be, left homeless for the summer, it might provide them a place to sit and still serve the community.
We'll leave that up to Kim to figure out.
Anything else, Hank? More on this?
No, we've kept in various contingencies. And in terms of the 20% on the professional services fee, I mean, that includes A&E, OPM, it would include borrowing costs, if any, reimbursable expenses, those types of things. We would have, indoor air quality testing and perhaps some water testing. Those types of elements are all baked into that 20%.
Okay.
All right, so my last slide here is just to remind everybody of the schedule. So we're speeding towards our final report here in August and hope to submit it at the very end of the month.
Is there anything that, well, maybe I should put it this way. For feedback, either there's a couple comments still to be had here, or we in the next week get back to you, Hank, and Brett, or just through Hank, or?
Yeah, I think always through me. You can certainly copy Kim and Earhart. And then I'll pass those on to UTL and their team.
Okay. So then I would ask the committee to please send along any questions, comments relative to the report to Hank. And I presume in our next meeting, the 28th, we'd see a final report.
Maybe the first meeting in September. We'll probably preview it first at the end of the month. And then forward it on to the committee for the September meeting.
Okay. Great.
Can I offer a comment?
Go ahead, George.
This sounds like a good plan. However, the one thing that concerns me, of course, is that so many things are being done during summers that these are not huge projects. So getting someone to bid on this and get it done during the summer is not going to be easy. Both schedule and cost-wise. So I think we just need to be aware of that. It's not going to be an easy task because everybody wants schoolwork to be done during the summer. And this is going to be competing for some of those larger projects as well.
That's a very good point, George. I think the first project, the teens and tweens area, is really the only piece that's time sensitive in that fashion. And the other ones wouldn't necessarily have to be done during the summer, but summer tends to be a slower period in the library.
Right. But what I'm suggesting is that and I haven't looked at all of the details, but some of the things that you may have to do to solve that problem is to plan ahead of time to order certain materials that, or even start your contract arrangements so that things could be done to prepare for that. So you're not trying to do everything during that summer period. You might have a lot of things purchased in advance that can be installed more quickly, recognizing that summer is only 8 weeks long, really.
Those are good. So a longer lead time on the bidding and
Well,
construction.
yeah. Somehow to look at that as part of the schedule so that you're not just trying to bang everything out during the summer. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that we would probably want to bid it in the winter prior to the construction. Similar to what Barry has done with the Pollard locker rooms.
Yep.
So that pre-purchasing of library shelving, for instance, and other things like that could be done and staged, and they could hit the ground running.
Yep. I'm just suggesting you think about that in the plans as you look at each phase.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all I had. Thanks.
Great, thanks. Okay, Hank, if you're okay, we have one voting item.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll move to the voting. We have one invoice put forth for approval from Util, June 2023 services for $3,725 out of the architectural budget. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the vote. Richard?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Roy?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Erwin?
Aye.
Erhard?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
And the chair's aye. Okay. That's all for voting items.
Yeah, I should conclude with a point that Kim is moving on, has accepted a position at the Watertown Library. We greatly appreciate all of her input into this process, and it's created a great foundation for how we move forward. So thank you, Kim.
Thank you and good luck.
Yeah, thank you all.
When do you actually leave and start?
My last day is the 1st and my first day is the 11th, September 11th.
Good luck.
Thank you.
So the town will initiate another search process, And Erhard, you're sticking around. You'll be our bellwether on this project.
Yeah, I'll continue to see this through till whenever it concludes.
The other point that came out of discussions today with the town manager and assistant town managers was that the dates that we have in the cost estimate don't necessarily reflect what's in the 5 and 10-year capital plans. And so they're beginning to look at the 5-year capital plan and trying to understand how this project fits in with all the other demands on capital. Thank you to Teal for providing us with the base information, but also anticipated cost escalation at 6%, so we can project out in future years if phasing allows. That was my last point. But before we close the meeting, we do have some DPW voting items.
Do we? I didn't see anything on the spreadsheet. Did I miss it?
It was right after RTU. There's a.
I tried to. Okay, hold on one second.
And it got it out of sequence.
Try to move the spreadsheet forward. Hold on a second.
Here, I can share my screen.
Oh, I see what you did. Okay, got it. All right, thanks. I got it. All right, so I'm going to put forth 2 invoices collectively for DPW feasibility study. The first one is Weston Sampson's April 2023 services for $14,300. Second one is Weston Sampson for June 2023 services for $8,250 for a total of $22,550 coming out of the designer budget. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, George. Any questions? Hearing none, coming to the vote. Richard?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Roy?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Erwin?
Aye.
Is there any user group? from here?
Barry.
Barry?
Aye.
And the chair is aye. Okay, I'm looking through the spreadsheet. I don't see anything.
That's it.
That's it.
Should be it. And Stuart, I'd like to remind people that we are offering a tour through 470 tomorrow morning at 7:30. Those of you who can join us, we'd like to make sure this committee, as well as as many members of the select board, can see that facility. I did forward you some pictures of our rain event last week, which I had never seen before, but apparently there had been flooding like this within the past three decades.
About 15 years ago.
15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I will have a few updated photos, but there was about 2 inches of rain of flooding inside 470 and about 4 inches of rain inside 484. PSAP was high and dry. The access drive coming into the DPW was flooded, as there's about a foot or more of water on Dedham Avenue, which certainly slowed traffic down. And it was over maybe 3.5 inches of rain in less than 2 hours that caused the flooding, and the reservoir overtopped at the dam, but also all the stairways and rampways coming into that walking trail. So it was a real eye opener, and I think with climate change, we're likely to see it happen more frequently.
Well, the weather forecast for tomorrow morning is not great.
How about the rest of the week, George?
Rest of the week should be
Got rain.
fine.
No, it's
Should
supposed to
be
rain all
fine.
through the week.
Well, I have an official National Weather Service rain gauge. And we got 5.3 inches of rain in that weekend storm. 5.3, that's the most I've ever seen in one storm. And I've been measuring rain like this for years. Unbelievable. Very variable that weekend.
With respect to tomorrow, is there any place you'd like committee members to park at the facility, or does it matter in terms of staffing, parking and needs and so forth? Or?
Yeah, if you park over by PSAP in that public parking there,
okay,
the staff typically parks closer to 470.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If it's raining, we'll probably start off in the truck bay. Otherwise, we'll meet right on the corner there where there's the awning where they have snow dispatch. And we'll probably walk through the working bays first, go up to the rear outdoor storage area and maintenance bays, and then come back through the truck bay. And those of you who haven't had the privilege of going to the second floor, we'll take you up there.
We used to have all our meetings up, a lot of our meetings up there, project meetings.
Okay, great. So anything else, Hank?
After we go through that walking tour, if you have any specific feedback, we'll be coming back in early September with, I guess, what'll be a final draft presentation on their analyses of the different sites that are being looked at. And I think all of you received the same information that was presented last time, and then also to the select board that defined what those different sites were. The town manager had requested that we also offer both select board and PBBC a walking tour of parcel 74. Those of you who haven't been there, you can obviously walk the trails yourselves. There isn't really a parking area, but you can access it off of Cheney. Or once we get a date, we can also offer a similar tour of that facility when we try to have both boards present.
Great. Any other closing comments from others?
I think we still need to, Mr. Chair, think about the line of succession.
Correct.
I know I keep bringing that up, but it is.
Yep, no, I agree. And then Richard, you and I probably need to chat, but I think we got to send out individual communications and reach out. So, okay. Barry?
Yeah, this one comment about, we talked about taking a tour at Emmy Grover. I've been kind of knee deep in this whole process from the beginning. Ken's been obviously up to his neck and over it. And he's been in the building a lot more than I have. And he took me on a tour, and even, listening to Deb and the other architects and Hank trying to explain it, even in having access to the drawings, it doesn't do it any justice when you get to go inside and Hank and Ken does a really good job of explaining everything, even for me. And I've been doing this for over 20 years. Which is probably a lot less than a lot of you. I know I'm still new at it, but anytime I've had an opportunity to renovate a building at this age, as old as this building is, I tore it down. So, to see something this historic to be renovated and to see the construction, especially the inside of these walls and how they're built, really adds a lot of depth to the whole narrative of why we're doing these things and some of these change orders. I get, when you put your eyes on it, you're like, okay, now I get it. I mean, it's amazing. So if anybody gets the opportunity to stop by, and Ken gives a great abbreviated tour and explains a lot of the steel, all the other change orders for doing some of the structural work on the brick and the windows stuff. I highly suggest it.
Right.
Thank you.
We would want to clarify that with the contractor, obviously.
Right. Yep, absolutely. Given the construction, there is managed access.
We own it. We tell them, they get you hard hats, get you some.
I was just gonna say, unless you have your own hard hat in the back of your
they're not
car,
gonna
which I
tell us
do,
no.
you can just walk on.
No, I mean, I give them a heads up. They'll be more than happy to accommodate us.
Well,
It'd be better to be controlled. I
Yeah.
strongly recommend we just manage carefully for those who want to go.
All you have to do is tell them that these are the people that pay the bills, and they'll give you a wonderful tour.
Great.
All right, cool. All right, if there is nothing else, I will recommend we bring a close to tonight's meeting. Any objections? So be it. Have a good week, everybody.
You too.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Tomorrow.
Yes?
Yeah.